Back on the road again. We had so much fun in Valdez, but even the terrain and scenery all the way to Palmer was just unbelievable. We've been having such a good time on this trip. We're kind of looking forward to get into Palmer. We're just outside of Anchorage. We've been traveling with Stan and Cy now this whole trip. We bought radios so we could talk back and forth while we're traveling. And this is one point where we split up. When we turn off the main highway headed to our campground, Stan and Cy headed into Anchorage because they were having that bent axle issue with their trailer. So they found a place there in Anchorage that had another axle on hand, so they went into town and got a motel for the night and was getting their trailer worked on. And we headed into the Palmer area and got camp set up and sat there and waited for them. It was interesting. The first camp we went to, we drove in, checked out the campground, and both Sonia and I looked at each other and says, "Nope, not here." So then we continued on. The campground was just in between Wasilla and Palmer, but nice area. I'm glad we changed campground ideas. It's kind of interesting not having reservations for any of this, but it actually worked out really well with the time of year we were up here. From some of the folks we talked to, sounds like July can be a real busy time for RVers and not super easy to find open campsites without reservations. And we had left the 5th of August, and now we're well into the trip, so it's already the beginning of September, end of August, and we really had no issues finding places to camp. That was nice. Really enjoyed that part of it. We're here at Finger Lake State Rec Site, just outside of Palmer, Alaska. And this is where we're camped for the last few days. Nice grassy spots. Each site has a picnic table and a fire ring. And they also have a nice grassy area for tents. The area we are in, there's a few sites that are first come, first serve. A lot of the others are reservable. And I think several of these are set up for tents. But if you squeeze really hard, you can fit your truck and your trailer into the spot. Finger Lake State Rec area was a nice campground to stay at. We enjoyed it. It was so much better than the first one we came to. The fees weren't too bad, and like several places we stayed at on the trip, they have these new electronic pay stations. You enter your credit card, follow the instructions, print out a receipt you put on your dashboard, and you're good to go. They were just pit toilets, but they were well maintained and nice and clean, and all the sites were graveled and relatively level. I would recommend this campground for anyone else in the area. This is the day use area. This is at least the second campground we were at that had life jackets for the kids to borrow. I really like that idea. I'd like to see it come down here into the lower 48 if it's not already here. I haven't seen it in Oregon though. The lake was beautiful, and we saw a map that looks like there's several lakes in this area, all linked together by decent sized streams. Looks like you can travel several miles by canoe. You might have to portage an area or two, but it looks like fun. Our first stop in the Palmer area was the Musk Ox Farm. This farm gives tours, and you get to actually see the musk ox that are being raised there. They have a gift shop. They sell yarn and other items for sale made out of the musk ox fur. and they are very, very soft. The visitor center area, the main office there, was under construction at the time, so as you can see by the saw in the background. So they were in the process of changing things up and redoing it. But it does look like a pretty neat store, neat experience. Musk ox are rare, and with that rarity, the prices for their yarn and other apparel made out of the yarn is not cheap. But neat experience, neat that they're taking the efforts they are to keep the musk ox alive and thriving. It was a neat little visit.
Little Susitna River, although I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's pretty.
Then it was up Hatcher Pass to the Independence Mine. This is another one of those things that was just so interesting to go to in person. I've seen so many different channels talk about Independence Mine and show their visit to it. Through my lens, they went up there. The gate down below was still closed because they were early enough in the season. There was still snow on the road, and they walked up to the mine. And to be here in person just kind of adds a whole new depth to it, and just enhances the whole experience to have seen it before and kind of knowing what to expect, but then finding all this other stuff you didn't expect. So it was a lot of fun and real interesting. The Independence Mine is outside of Palmer, Alaska. It's on the Hatcher Pass. You can continue up the Hatcher Pass if you want. We opted not to. We were there relatively late in the day. In fact, we closed the place down. They were waiting for us at the bottom gate to lock up for the day because we were the last ones to leave. But it's a fascinating place to be at, and I love history. I love antiques. I love to see how this stuff was used, so it's really interesting to me to see the equipment used and read about how it was used and how they extracted the ore, and all the different mining operations for this particular site. Other sites that have nothing to do with mining, I just love to see the equipment used, how it was used, and just how people lived back then in a much simpler time. The mining up here actually dates back to at least 1897. There were some active claims reported in the area near Fishhook Creek. Eventually, several of the miners joined up into the Wasilla Mining Company. This mine was worked by the Wasilla Mining Company from 1848 to 1850. On a side note, I pointed out that pack because when we went through my dad's den after he passed, we found a couple of pack boards like that, and my dad being a hunter, I thought they were hunting packs, so I've been using them and carrying them in many hunting scenarios, and I've packed game out with I have 2 packs just like that. So it was interesting to see that they were actually used up in mining operations, and I think they're older than I thought they were. But and also those fire extinguishers on the table there. My dad was a firefighter, and I have a couple of those old copper fire extinguishers that you turn upside down. But back to the mining. So they worked the mines from 1948 to 1950 because of the war effort and everything going on. There was actually an order, I believe, by the governor. Can't remember quite. I don't have those details in front of me. But they were required to shut down because they were deemed a non-necessary operation. And they were expecting to come back after 1950, so the buildings and the equipment were left behind with that thought that they were eventually going to come back. They never did. This was the second largest hard rock mine operating in the state of Alaska. There was one outside of Juneau that was bigger than this, but this was the second largest. As you can see from the shots, there are several buildings that are still standing, and there are several buildings that have finally given up to the wear and tear of the environment up here in the weather. At one time there were 16 buildings up here, and kind of interestingly, they're not around anymore, but there used to be wooden tunnels connecting all 16 buildings. As you would expect, this is Alaska, they get a lot of snow, so it was about the only way to get from building to building during operations of the mine. Because, you know, you're underground mining, doesn't matter if it's snowy outside or not, it's the same underground, so you just need to get from building to building, from your barracks to the various working buildings, powerhouses, the mine shaft. All that was connected by wooden tunnels. They did pull a lot of gold out of this mine. The mine produced in excess of 165,500 ounces of gold. To put that in context, that would be 10,343 pounds of gold. At the current value of gold, at $2,743 an ounce, that's the equivalent of $453,966,500 pulled out of this mine during its lifetime. That is just crazy to think about. Going through the assay's office here, they showed different types of rock ore that would have been taken out, what they were looking for, talked about how they would process some of it, some of the old equipment used to crush up the rock and try to get the gold out. It was a real neat experience. Really enjoyed seeing the different buildings and what they were used for, with the equipment inside, the drilling equipment. It was just really neat to see. And then of course we went up higher where the actual mine shaft entrance had been. And it is kind of amazing to see how many buildings are still standing. And like the bunkhouse number 1, they were in the process while we were there of renovating that. We weren't able to go in because they were still busy working on it. And then of course there's one main stream that comes through camp. You've seen it on several shots of the video. And there's another stream off to the south of the place. And interestingly, the whole Independence Mine area and Hatcher Pass area up in this area is actually a public gold panning area. Anyone can come up here and gold pan. We actually gold panned in the stream in camp because if you rent the equipment, yes, they have gold pans and shovels there that you can rent. You have to do it behind the bunkhouse on this stream. Whereas if you bring your own equipment, you can go to the other stream across the valley, and again, it's shovel and gold pan. There's no serious mining operations allowed, but you can bring your own gold pan up here and pan. And of course, you know, it is what it is. The chances of you finding anything are pretty small. You got to think that how many people have rented equipment and gone out here with the attempt to find gold, and what little is out there has probably already been found, but it was still a lot of fun. We sure enjoyed it.
Stuff. You got to pay for this trip somehow.
All right, question time. Where are you, dear?
I'm at the Independence Mine in Palmer, Alaska, and I'm gold panning.
At a real gold mine?
At a real gold mine.
In Alaska?
Where people actually do find gold in this stream.
Whoa.
This is so cool. mean, in some ways it's cooler than Barkerville because it's like a real gold mine and it's in Alaska, gold panning, in the wild. But on the other hand, there's no guarantee I'm going to find gold.
Where are you, dear?
I'm at the Alaska State Fair.
Have you ever been here before?
To Alaska or the State Fair?
Yeah.
No.
And last but not least, our stop here in Palmer. We just happened to be in Palmer at the right time for the Alaskan State Fair. And we were looking forward to it. I don't know what it is about fairs. Probably just going back to my childhood. I remember going to the Washington County Fair here in Oregon as just a kid having fun and an exhibitor putting things in the fair, from vegetables to rabbits. I did a little bit of everything there in the fair. I even did flower arranging when I was a kid. But I've always enjoyed going to fairs, and heck, we're in Alaska. We happen to be there at the right time. Might as well go. Stan was having a lot of fun. He, growing up, had a tractor similar to some of these that were out here, and was explaining some of the differences that his tractor had. That was kind of fun. This tractor here, I can pretty much guarantee is not factory. That's an old flathead Ford V8, and I'm pretty sure they never installed those in a tractor. I could be wrong, but looked like something my Grandpa Holmes would have built. And there's just something about those shaggy cows. They had all kinds of things, from quail to rabbits and all kinds of different animals and vegetables. That's one of the things we were there for, is the giant vegetables. I often wonder how Alaska, with the weather they have, can grow vegetables as big as they do. Well, it's not just vegetables, it's flowers and just all kinds of stuff. In the summertime, because of the tilt of the earth and all, they get so much sun. I mean, they're getting almost 20 plus hours of sun a day. If you treat your garden right, things will grow extremely large. I'd never seen some of these flowers as big as they were. And when we finally got to the giant vegetables, they're weighing cabbage by pounds, not ounces, pounds. And just the size of some of this stuff is just amazing. It was kind of fun to be there in person and see them firsthand, especially the pumpkin. The orange pumpkin, the far pumpkin, it was the blue ribbon winner. It weighed over 2,000 pounds. Well, the trip has been great so far. Really appreciate all you watching our videos, and thanks for coming along.